What's up, YouTube? YouTube. What's happening? What's happening? What's cracking, lacking? What's going on? YouTube. What's up, YouTube? YouTube. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Let's start this thing off. YouTube, I do not own the right to this music. This music for entertainment purposes only. Let's get it going. We all agree tonight, all of the speakers have agreed that America has a very serious problem. Not only does America have a very serious problem, but our people have a very serious problem. America's problem is self-destruction. That was self-destruction. Self-destruction. That was self-destruction. Self-destruction. That was self-destruction. Self-destruction. That was self-destruction. Well, today's topic, self-destruction, it really ain't the rap audience is bugging. It's one of two suckers, ignorant brothers, trying to rob and steal from one another. You get caught in the mid. So to crush that stereotype, here's what we did. We got ourselves together so that you can unite and fight for what's right. Negative cause, the way we live is positive. We don't kill our relatives. Pop, what a shot, who's the man? Headline, front page, and rap is the name. MC's the light, him, sing the pop line. The black on black crime is way from our time. With a knife that fight, try, cause he died. That's what he left, very last breath. Was I said, so watch your step. Back in the 60s, our brothers and sisters were hands. How could you get mad? I never ran from the Ku Klux Klan, and I shouldn't have to run from a black man. Cause that's self-destruction. That's self-destruction. Self-destruction. That's self-destruction. Self-destruction. That's self-destruction. Self-destruction. Look, Grace, watch through. Turkey breast, dress to impress, ready to launch. Money in your pocket, dying with your pocket. To get inside, you pay almost $10. Got shaped with a razor blade, change to your collar. Leave the guns in the crack and the knobs along. MC lights on the microphone. While I'm not here pushing, snatching and taxing. I can't understand why brothers don't be maxing. There's only one Cisco, that's all for the war. You ain't going to school. So what you gotta go to? Do you rob the rich and give to the poor? Yo, daddy. Who is living this picture of a model? Why daddy-o? End up in jail and gotta go. You could be crime and get paid today, and tomorrow you're behind bars in the worst way. From your grandmas, cause you locked away. Now tell me, do you really think crime pays? Brother, you talking all that chat. It's time to get together in a unity. Cause if not, then you'll get soon to be self-destroyed. Unemployed. See, rat race will be lost without a trace. All alone, but what to do is stop the violence and fix the science. Down the road that we call a trinity, where knowledge is formed and you learn to be self-sufficient, independent. To teach the each is what rap intended. What society wants to invade. So do not walk this path that they laid it. Self-destruction. And the self-destruction. Self-destruction. D-Night. Down like this. Because everyone knows that hip hop rules, so we got it. And rap much more. The opposition is weak and rap is strong. This is all about no doubt to stop violence. But first, let's have a moment of silence. Swing. Stated, re-educated, evaluated, more until the past have faded. These things left in the memories of our related. And I hated when someone died to get all hurt up for a silly little chain about Chuck. Word up. It doesn't make you a big man, and you ain't going against your brother man, and you don't know that's part of the plan. Why the rap music is in full demand? Understand? Self-destruction. Self-destruction. My name is just Mike the Man, I'm a gangster. I was known as the gangster. But means that it's no fun. The time's about to unite everyone. You don't have to be soft to be the beast. Rather than killing and murdering is the least. You don't have to be chased to find the beast. But what the people is time I release. Hey yo, here's the situation. Idiocy, nonsense, violence. It's not a good policy, therefore we must ignore. Fight and rush it. Happens at the door, so there'll be no bump rushing. Let's get together before falling apart. I heard a brother shot another. It broke my heart. I don't understand the difficulty, people. Love your brother. Treat him as an equal. They call us animals. I don't agree with them. I'm wrong. The right is what you're helping them. Take heed before I leave what I'm saying. Or we'll all be on the team. Deep in the heart of the matter, the self-destruction is served on a platter. Making a day, not failing to anticipate. They got things, so they fell for the bait. That makes them a victim. Fix their fuck. New jack in jail because the vet's never drop. It's knowing the rock is in jail, you're a number. They never took the time to wonder about it. Self-destruction. There's a self-destruction. Self-destruction. There's a self-destruction. As we urge the world to live for the love of our people, the hope they get along. Get the point to our brothers and sisters who don't know the time. So we gonna ride. Your head, you know our job for building collect ourselves with Israelites to evolve for self-respect. Plus we got to keep ourselves in check or else it's. What's up, YouTube? What's up, YouTube? What's going on? Hope everybody, the day has started off great. Early on Wednesday morning. I got a good live for you guys today. I've been bringing to you guys a few riots and massacres that occurred in the United States, race riots, basically. And, you know, it's a lot of these riots that wasn't even taught to us in school. You know, like I said before, the Tulsa, Oklahoma massacre wasn't taught in school. I didn't know anything about the Memphis massacre. And the last one I did, I didn't know about the New Orleans massacre. Coming up in school, I didn't know nothing about all these massacres. But it took for me to research myself and dig myself and read myself to find out about these different events. Now, this event here, I'm going to pray for you today, is the Chicago Massacre of 1919. Now, by me growing up in Chicago, y'all, I never heard, of a massacre, a race riot that occurred in Chicago. Only thing they told us was about the Chicago fire. That's the only thing they told us about the Chicago fire. They didn't say nothing about no race war, no massacre, nothing. But see, this is the truth that they keep away. That they keep away from us. You know, and it's a shame that they don't teach it to us. You know, that's a part of history. It's a part of history. So my question is, why don't they want us to know anything about these chain of events? Kind of makes you wonder.
It kind of makes you wonder. But like I say, we're gonna listen to a video. It's the Black Massacre series, episode 19, Chicago Riot of 1919. Okay, let's begin.
What's going on, everybody? And welcome to episode 19 of the Black Massacre series, where today I will be discussing the Chicago Race Riot of 1919. The Chicago Race Riot of 1919 was a violent racial conflict between white Americans and black Americans that began on the south side of Chicago, Illinois on July 27th and ended on August 3rd, 1919. During the riot, 38 people died, 23 black and 15 white. Over the week, injuries attributed to the episodic confrontation stood at 537, two-thirds black and one-third white. And between 1,000 and 2,000 residents, most of them black, lost their homes. Due to its sustained violence and widespread economic impact, it is considered the worst of the scores of riots and civil disturbances across the United States during the Red Summer of 1919, so named because of its racial and labor violence. It was also one of the worst riots in the history of Illinois. In early 1919, the socio-political atmosphere of Chicago around its rapidly growing black community was one of ethnic tension caused by long-standing racism, competition among new groups, and economic slump, and the social changes engendered by World War I. With the Great Migration, thousands of African Americans from the American South had settled next to neighborhoods of European immigrants on Chicago's South Side, near jobs in the stockyards, meatpacking plants, and industry.
See, that's why a lot of blacks came up here, especially from the South, because they had plenty of jobs. They had plenty of jobs. And where they was, where the blacks migrated to, where they moved to, was a neighborhood called Bronzeville. That's like as what they call the low end on the south side of Chicago, like around about 39th, 35th. You know, that's the that's the Bronzeville neighborhood. So that's where at that time in the early 1900s, that's where blacks migrated to because of the jobs. There was plentiful jobs where they moved to. So that's why they moved toward the Bronzeville neighborhood. But as you're going to be able to hear later on, as most of any other time, a lot of white folks didn't like that because we was doing the same jobs or we was making the same money that they was making. And you had a lot of white people who didn't like that. Let's continue.
Meanwhile, the long-established Irish fiercely defended their neighborhoods and political power against all newcomers. Post-World War I racism and social tensions built up in the competitive labor and housing markets. Overcrowding and increased black resistance from against racism, especially by war veterans, contributed to the racial tension, as well as white ethnic gangs unrestrained by police. The turmoil came to a boil during a summer heat wave with the murder of the 17-year-old Eugene Williams, a black teenager who had inadvertently drifted into a white swimming area at an informally segregated beach near 29th Street. A group of black youth were diving from a 14-foot by 9-foot raft that they had constructed. When the raft drifted into the white beach area, one white beachgoer was indignant, began hurling rocks at the young men, striking Williams and caused the team to drown. The official coroner's report cited that Williams drowned because the stone throwing had kept him from coming to shore. When black beachgoers complained that whites attacked them, violence expanded into neighborhoods in which white mobs attacked innocent black residents. Tensions between groups arose in a melee, which became days of unrest. Black neighbors near white areas were attacked,
White gangs went into black neighborhoods and black workers going to and from work were attacked. Meanwhile, some black civilians organized to resist and protect each other, and some whites sought to lend aid to black civilians. But the Chicago Police Department often turned a blind eye, or worse. Chicago Mayor William Hale Thompson had a game of brinksmanship with Illinois Governor Frank Loden, which may have exacerbated the riot since Thompson refused to ask Loudon to send in the Illinois Army National Guard for 4 days, although Loudon had called up the guardsmen organized in Chicago's armories and ready to intervene. After the riots, Loudon convened the Chicago Commission on Race Relations, a nonpartisan interracial committee, to investigate the causes and to propose solutions to racial tensions. Their conclusions were published in 1922 by the University of Chicago Press as The Negro in Chicago, a study of race relations and a race riot. U.S. President Woodrow Wilson and the U.S. Congress attempted to promote legislation and organizations to decrease racial discord in America. Governor Loudon took several actions at Thompson's request to quell the riot and promote greater harmony in its aftermath. Sections of Chicago industry were shut down for several days during and after the riots to avoid interaction among the opposing groups. Thompson drew on his association with the riot to influence later political elections. One of the most lasting effects may have been decisions in both white and black communities to seek greater racial separation. Unlike southern cities at the time, Chicago did not segregate most public accommodations. According to Walter Francis White of the NAACP, pre-1950 Chicago had a good reputation for equitable treatment of blacks. However, in the early 20th century, Chicago beaches were unofficially racially segregated. Blacks had a long history in Chicago, with the city sending Illinois' first black representative, John W.E. Thomas, to the state legislature in 1876. While blacks in 1900 were only about 1% of the total population of a city that had seen large European immigration, the black population expanded dramatically in the early years of the 20th century. By 1910, thousands of blacks were moving from the South to Chicago as a major destination in the Great Migration to industrial cities in the Northeast and Midwest, fleeing lynching, segregation, and disenfranchisement in the Deep South.
See, the early 1900s, that's when the great migration came. That's when a lot of blacks were like moving up north, for better jobs, a better way of life, and especially get away from that Jim Crow. So you had a lot of blacks moving up here, and at the time, blacks was really only allowed basically in the Bronzeville neighborhood. Like I said, and I told you what I was at, that's like 39th, 30, like 30, like 35th, somewhere over there, like east, that's Bronzeville. Bronzeville is still standing today. You still have a lot of black businesses, but as times went on, blacks was able to move anywhere in the city. But it was a long time, even when I was young. It was a lot of places I couldn't go in fearing of getting into a fight or praying that someone, a white person, a white dude gonna jump me or whatever. We had that fear then in Chicago. So it's Chicago, Chicago's the trip. Let's continue.
The revived Ku Klux Klan in the South committed 64 lynchings in 1918 and 83 in 1919. With industrial jobs in the stockyards and meatpacking industry opening as European immigration was cut off by World War I, from 1916 to 1919, the black population in Chicago increased by 148%, from 44,000 to 109,000.
See, you had the blacks who was migrating from the South, and you also had European immigrants coming to Chicago, especially Irishmen. So, you know, you had them two fighting for the jobs. And we know what color Irishmen are. So you had them two fighting for the jobs. Let's continue.
The growing black population settling in the South Side bordered a neighborhood of Irish Americans existing since the mid-19th century, and the two groups competed for low-end jobs and housing. Alongside earlier waves of immigrants from Southern and Eastern Europe, ethnic groups were possessive of their neighborhoods, which their young men often patrolled against outsiders. Because of agricultural problems, Southern whites also migrated to the city, about 20,000 by this period. The rapid influx of migrants caused overcrowding from a lack of low-cost housing. In 1917, 2 summers before the Chicago riot, large and deadly race riots broke out in the expanding cities of East St. Louis, Illinois, and Houston, Texas, influencing the violent events of Red Summer across the nation and in Chicago.
See, around that time, you was having different race riots. You was having different race riots all over the United States. So there was plenty of race riots, plenty of them. Like I said, New Orleans, Memphis, Houston, Florida, Rosewood, Florida, Wilmington, North Carolina. Man, you had race riots. Man, that was the thing then. Because you have to look at it, slavery was abolished not too long from that time period. See, slavery was abolished in 1865. We talking about, what, maybe 45 years later? Or maybe 40 to 45 years later? You know, so these different race riots was going on everywhere. They all just happened at a particular time. Like in 1919, you had it was more than Chicago race riot. You had other race riots that occurred in 1919. That was a big year. They had a nickname for 1919. Let's continue.
The post-war period also found tensions rising in numerous rapid growing cities where people from different cultures jostled against each other and competed for space. In 1917, the privately run Chicago Real Estate Board established a policy of block-by-block segregation. New arrivals in the Great Migration generally settled in older black neighborhoods on the South Side. By 1920, the area held 85% of Chicago's blacks, middle, upper class, and poor. In the post-war period, military veterans of all groups were looking to re-enter the workforce despite the post-war economic slump. Some whites resented black veterans. At the same time, black veterans exhibited greater militancy and pride serving to protect their country in units such as the Illinois 8th Infantry. They expected to be treated as full citizens after fighting for the nation. Meanwhile, younger black men rejected the deference and passivity traditional in the South and promoted armed self-defense for control of their neighborhoods. In Chicago, the Irish-dominated social and athletic clubs were closely tied to the political structure of the city, some acting as enforcers for politicians, as the first major group of the 19th century European immigrants to settle in the city. The Irish had established formal and informal political strength. The Irish and long patrolled their neighborhood boundaries against all other ethnic groups, especially blacks. And as ethnic white gangs began attacking people in black neighborhoods, the police, overwhelmingly white and increasingly Irish American, seemed little inclined to stop them.
Remember, I told you guys it was a time where, we go to a white neighborhood, we had to fight. Now this is in the night. Now this, 1919, around that time. Now this is what I'm talking about in the 70s. In the 70s, and most of where the Irish people lived was in a neighborhood called Bridgeport. That's where our late Mayor Richard J. Daley and his son was born. That's where they're from. And as you heard them say, the Irishmen had complete control over the Chicago Police Department. Complete control. Let's continue.
An example of ethnic territoriality was the Bridgeport community area, an Irish neighborhood just west of the Black Belt. There, the Hamburg Athletic Club, whose members included a 17-year-old Richard J. Daley, the future mayor of Chicago, contributed to gang.
Richard J. Daley, that's the mayor I was just telling you about. He was our mayor. He was Chicago mayor, I think, from 1955 to, I believe, 1976. He was Chicago mayor.
Violence in the area. Meanwhile, newspapers carried sensational accounts of Black American crime. Long-standing racial tensions between whites and blacks exploded in 5 days of violence that started on July 27, 1919. On that hot summer day on an officially segregated Chicago beach, a white man threw stones at Eugene Williams when he crossed the unmarked and unofficial color line between the white and black sections of the 29th Street beach. Williams drowned. Tensions escalated when a white police officer prevented a black police officer from arresting the white man responsible for Williams' death, but arrested a black man instead. Objections by black observers were met with violence by whites.
So as the Irishmen, they controlled the police department. And black people didn't have a chance. They didn't have a chance. Now, like I say, they said the race riot started from a young man, on a raft in Lake Michigan, drifted somehow to their part of the beach. So they was confronted by angry white folks, throwing stones at them and all that. One struck the young man in the head, and he drowned. But instead of them arresting the white man who did it, they arrested the black man. Let's continue.
By whites. Attacks between white and black mobs erupted swiftly. At one point, a white mob threatened Providence Hospital, many of whose patients were black. The police successfully held them off.
Providence Hospital is a hospital that we had in Chicago. Mostly black folks went there. But through hard times or whatever, Providence Hospital is now closed. But Providence Hospital used to be like on like around 35th. I want to say like King Drive, somewhere around that way. No. It's between King Drive and Cottage Grove. If you're from Chicago, it's somewhere down there. But Providence used to be down there. but they closed now. Let's continue.
There were also attempts by the ethnic Irish gangs to incite Southern and Eastern European immigrant communities to violence against blacks, though they had no history of such hostility. In one instance, many members of the Irish Reagan's cults donned blackface and set fire to Lithuanian and Polish homes in the back of the yards in an attempt to incite this community to join them against blacks. Contrary to the violence, some cooperation also occurred, with some whites seeking to help save Eugene Williams, reporting other whites to the police, denouncing the violence and bringing food to black communities. The Chicago riot lasted almost a week, ending only after the government of Illinois deployed nearly 6,000 Illinois Army National Guard troops around the Black Belt to prevent further white attacks. The majority of the rioting, murder, and arson committed by white ethnic groups attacking the Black Belt on the South Side, while most of the casualties and property damage were suffered by black Chicagoans. Newspaper accounts noted numerous attempts at arson. For instance, on July 31st, more than 30 arson fires were started in the Black Belt before noon, while rioters stretched cables across the streets to keep out fire trucks. The Chicago mayor's office was informed of a plan to burn down the black area and run its residents out of town. There were also sporadic violent attacks in other parts of the city, including the Chicago Loop. Because of the riot, 38 people died, 23 black and 15 white, and another 537 were injured. 2/3 of them black. Black patrolman John W. Simpson was the only policeman killed in the riot. Approximately 1,000 residents were left homeless after the fires. Many black families left by train during the riot, returning to their families in the South. To help restore order, Chief of Police John J. Garrity closed all places where men congregate for other than religious purposes. Illinois Governor Frank Lowden authorized the deployment of the 11th Illinois Infantry Regiment and its machine gun company, as well as the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd Reserve Militia, as a total of 3,500 men. The Cook County Sheriff deputized between 1,000 and 2,000 ex-soldiers to help keep the peace. With the reserves and militias guarding the Black Belt, the city arranged for emergency provisions to provide its residents with food. White groups delivered food and supplies to the line established by the military, who passed them out to blacks for distribution within the Black Belt. While industry was closed, the packing plants arranged to deliver pay to certain places in the city so that black men could pick up their wages. Once order was restored, Loudon was urged to create a state committee to study the cause of the riots. He proposed forming a committee to write a racial code of ethics and to draw up racial boundaries for activities within the cities.
That kind of make you question, has the city of Chicago ever been nice to black people? Because you listen to this and you think about events that's going on today. You have these black on black crime. Well, I know that's going on everywhere. But you have black on black crime. You have these teen takeovers. You have all these schools closing in the black and brown community. When have the local government ever cared about black people in Chicago? Somehow in Chicago, black folks are still struggling. So struggling with high property tax. Property tax is so high, we have to move somewhere else. We have to move out the city because property tax is so high. Some people are losing their homes. because property tax is so high. It's crazy. It just makes you wonder, man. It just makes you wonder.
Cook County's coroner's office took 70-day sessions, 29 sessions, and 450 witnesses examinations to collect evidence about the riots. A report stated that on July 27, 1919, Eugene Williams, an African-American youth, drifted towards an informally segregated beach on the south side while holding onto a railroad tie. He was subsequently hit by a stone as a white man threw rocks at him and other blacks to drive them away from their part of the 29th Street beach in the city's Douglas community on the south side. A witness recalled seeing a single white male standing on a breakwater 75 feet from the raft of the blacks and throwing rocks at them. Williams was struck in the head, and then he panicked, lost his grip on the railroad tie, and drowned. The assailant ran toward 29th Street, where a different fight had already started, when blacks tried to use a section of the beach there in defiance of his tacit segregation. The rioting escalated when a white police officer refused to arrest the man who threw the stone at Williams. He instead arrested a black man on a white man's complaint of some minor offense. Anger over the arrest, coupled with Williams' death and rumors among both communities, escalated into 5 days of rioting. Most casualties were black, and most of the property damage was inflicted in black neighborhoods. Historians noted South Side youth gangs, including the Hamburg Athletic Club, were later found to have been among the primary instigators of racial violence. For weeks in the spring and summer of 1919, they had been anticipating, even eagerly waiting, a race riot. And on several occasions, they themselves had endeavored to precipitate one. And now that racial violence threatened to become generalized and unrestrained throughout Chicago, they were set to exploit the chaos. Early reports detailed injuries to police officers and the Chicago firemen. One black policeman, John Simpson, was killed during the riot by persons unknown. The conduct of the white police force was criticized during and after the riots. State's Attorney Mackley Hoyne accused the police of arresting black rioters while refusing to arrest white rioters. Hoyne began bringing the cases involving only blacks to the sitting grand jury to be charged, causing jurors to walk out. What the blank is the matter with the state's attorney? Hasn't he got any white cases to present? A juror complained. The jury then deferred hearing evidence of all cases against blacks until whites were also charged. Similarly, a judge lectured police. I want to explain to you officers that these colored people could not have been rioting among themselves. Bring me some white prisoners. Roaming gangs of Bridgeport whites, mostly Irish, perpetrated much of the violence. Although the local newspapers carried accounts of blacks setting fires, later the office of State Fire Marshal Gamber proved conclusively that the fires were not caused by blacks, but by whites.
You see, now they try to go on the narrative that blacks started it. You know, blacks was doing all, burning down and all that shit because only people they brought to face trial was black. The white people who was causing the riots and all the massacres and all that shit, they didn't arrest them. But the judge knew, say, hey, hell no. Hell no. You can't tell me that only black people doing this. You can't tell me. Then after they do a study, they found out that it was mostly the whites who started all this shit. See, if it wasn't for that judge, some of them white people who was in that riot would never able to take responsibility for what they done because they would never been arrested if it was up for the Chicago police. If it was up for to the Chicago police, them white defendants would never been brought to trial if it was up to them. That just shows you how diabolical that they are. And some Chicago Police Department still is. Because you got to think, some of the guys that's on Chicago Police Department is generational cops. There's a lot of them on there generational cops. Let's continue. Got a little bit. Got about 4 minutes.
The New York Times coverage of the riot clearly conveyed that whites were responsible for the coordinated large-scale arson against black areas and for numerous mob attacks, with early police failures to arrest whites other than for Williams' death. Most deaths were not prosecuted, and only 2 white Chicagoans were ultimately convicted of murder. The one man prosecuted for Williams' death was acquitted. The rioting impacted Chicago's economy. Low-income areas such as tenement housing were especially impacted as areas of possible riots. Some of the South Side's industry was closed during the riot. Businesses in the Loop were also affected by closure of the streetcars. Many workers stayed away from affected areas. At the Union Stockyard, one of Chicago's largest employers, all 15,000 black workers were initially expected to return to work on Monday, August 4th, 1919. But after arson near white employees' homes near the stockyards on August 3rd, the management banned black employees from the stockyards in fear of further rioting. Governor Loudon noted his opinion that the troubles were related to labor issues rather than race. Nearly 1/3 of the black employees were non-union and were resented by union employees for that reason. Black workers were kept out of the stockyards for 10 days after the end of the riot because of continued unrest. On August 8, 1919, about 3,000 non-union black workers showed up for work under protection of special police, deputy sheriffs, and militia. The white union employees threatened to strike unless such security forces were discontinued. Their main grievance against blacks was that they were non-union and had been used by management as strike breakers in earlier years. Many blacks fled the city as a result of the riots and damage. Illinois Attorney General Edward Brundage and State Attorney Coyne gathered evidence to prepare for a grand jury investigation. They stated intention was to pursue all perpetrators and to seek the death penalty as necessary. On August 4th, 1919, 17 indictments against blacks were handed down. Richard J. Daley was a member and years later elected president of the Hamburg Athletic Club in Bridgeport. Daley served as Chicago's mayor from 1955 to 1976. In his long political career, he never confirmed nor denied involvement in the riots.
In other words, he didn't say nothing about it. And he was one of the main culprits of the riot. But he was our mayor from 1955 to 1976. Then his son became mayor. I want to see, that's why I say it's good to learn your history. It's good to learn your history because you learned a lot of shit. You learned a lot. And your eyes open to a lot of shit too. See, I don't know about you. I don't want to be in this world naive. So you walking around, thinking everything, okay and everything hunky-dory and all that. It's not. That's why us as black people, we have to fight harder. See, it ain't like the opportunities ain't there for us, but we just have to fight harder to get it. That's why I say when people sit back and say, oh, I can't do it because the white man this, the white man that, that's an excuse. It always will be an excuse, in my opinion. Because the opportunity is there. You just have to go get it. You just have to fight just as hard as your white counterpart. That's all. That's all. Okay, let's finish this, y'all. Got about less than 2 minutes.
In 1922, 6 whites and 6 blacks were commissioned to discover the true roots of the riots. It claimed that returning soldiers from World War I not receiving their original jobs and homes instigated the riots. In 1930, Mayor William Hill Thompson, a flamboyant Republican, invoked the riot in a misleading pamphlet urging blacks to vote against the Republican nominee, Representative Ruth Hannah McCormick, in the United States Senate race for her late husband's seat. She was the widow of Senator Joseph Medill McCormick, as well as the sister-in-law of Chicago Tribune publisher Robert Rutherford McCormick. The McCormicks were a powerful Chicago family whom Thompson opposed. President Woodrow Wilson pronounced white participants the instigators of the prolonged riots in Chicago and Washington, D.C. As a result, he attempted to promote greater racial harmony through the promotion of voluntary organizations and through the enactment of legislation improvements by Congress. Wilson did not reverse the policy of racial segregation within the federal bureaucracy imposed at the beginning of his term in office, however. The Chicago race riot of 1919 shocked the nation and raised awareness of the problems that African Americans face every day in the early 20th century United States. This concludes episode 19 of the Black Massacre series, the Chicago Race Riot of 1919. If you haven't done so already, be sure to check out the Black Massacre series playlist to get caught up on all the previous episodes and get a recap on the episodes already displayed.
Yep. So that's that. Yep. And this, what's up, Shotty? What's up, Dwayne? What's up, Fat Tay? Now you get to speak to y'all, brothers. But salute. But yeah, man, during them times, man, we had, man, race riots was happening all through the United States, man. It was happening all through the United States. And the one in Chicago is another race riot that was never taught in our schools. It was never taught in our schools. Only thing they told us about Chicago was supposed to be the Great Chicago Fire. Ooh. Then that makes me want to think, was there really they say this is what they taught us. They said something like a cow or something supposed to kicked over a lantern. Then it's supposed to burn, the whole city of Chicago burned. Nah. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. But see, and like I said, the reason why I don't believe that, because this massacre that happened in 1919 was never mentioned. It was never mentioned in our schools. It wasn't taught in our schools. Just think if this was taught in our schools. See, then a lot of people would have known that Richard J. Daley had a hand in this massacre. You see how this works? So, do you think if people known about that, especially blacks, would have voted for Richard Daley? I don't think so. That's why they kept this undercover. We never learned about no damn massacre in Chicago. Yeah, that's Shotty. That's how it started. Cause a couple of black boys they rap drifted from the blacks beach to where the whites was at, and the guy had threw a rock and hit the young man in the head, and he drowned. That's how everything started. Yeah, but most people would have known this. I believe a lot of things would have been different. So you saw how powerful Daly was. Daly was mayor from 1955 to 1976. 21 years. Then after Harold Washington, Eugene Sawyer, he was just in there about for a year. Then Jane Byrne. Then you had his son, mayor. Richard J. Daley's son was mayor of Chicago. So do you think if a lot of people known that Papa Daley was involved with this race riot, that he would have became mayor? Like I say, this wasn't taught in our schools. This wasn't taught in our schools. And black people facing what black people face, like going through like white neighborhoods or whatever, that shit went on even when I was a kid. We couldn't go through Bridgeport unless we ready to fight. That's just the way it was. This was all the way up to in the 70s. So, and like I say, Daley was our mayor. Daley was our mayor. That's crazy. Hold on, y'all. China. Mhm. Yeah, so it's crazy. It's crazy, man. That's why I tell people, man, it's very, 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 very important to learn and understand your history. Hey Vince, I feel you. Hey Vince, if you didn't have a chance, I had did a live when I was talking about the New Orleans massacre, and it explained, most of the people, the Confederates, all the Jim Crow people who was following Jim Crow was Democrats. The Democrats didn't have anything to do with passing our civil rights, uh, abolishing slavery, none of that. It was all Republican. But see, us as black people, we want to say Republicans are all racist, where in fact, the Republicans are the one who really gave us our rights. The only thing the Democrats did, and they using that, was to pass that civil rights bill. That's it. That's the only thing the Democrats ever did for black people and haven't done nothing else. Because like you say, you 63, I'm 62. So we've been around and saw different presidents, from Lyndon B. Johnson up to Trump. And none of them presidents that we had necessarily did anything specific for black folks. But we want to walk around talking about we Democrat. We Democrat. Oh, the Republicans, they racist. Yeah. Yeah, because Lincoln, it wasn't necessarily abolishing slavery. It was more of, like you said, Shotty, it was more of that they should get paid per se for their labor. It wasn't necessarily a civil rights thing with Lincoln. It was more of, economic wise, they should get paid. So you're kind of right about that. But see, the South said, fuck that, paying them. We want to keep them as slaves. We want to keep them as slaves. See, that's what the South and the North was fighting over. The South wanted to keep getting cheap and free labor, but the North was saying, nah, that's not right. So it wasn't about, let's treat these black people better, No. Because as you can tell, in the North, we still struggle with racism. Even though it wasn't slavery in the North, we still struggle. And I'm showing that through these race riots. We still struggle with racism. So, abolishing slavery and all that didn't get rid of the racism. Even in the North, it probably wasn't as bad as the Jim Crow South, but it was still bad up north. It was still bad up north. So I don't know what it's going to take. People, I don't know. I think people got to the wrong idea when you say the hell with the Democrats. Vince, they're not gonna give us reparations. They're not gonna give it to us because they're gonna throw a monkey wrench in the game. They're gonna throw a monkey wrench in the game. You know, because it might come to the point where they might say you have to prove that your ancestors are from here. And believe it or not, Vince, a lot of us don't all have all black blood in us. A lot of us don't have all, because like I can speak for me. My great grandfather was white on my grandmother's side. On my father's father. My great grandfather, he was white. That's what I'm saying, Shotty. So that's why I say for us to get rid, they're gonna throw a big monkey wrench in the game, man. With everybody who feel that they natural African American or whatever you want to call yourself, it's gonna be hard for some people to get, man. Exactly, and that's the case with my family, Vince. This man used to come from. He had his own family. He used to come down and have relations with my great grandma. I think they produced 6 kids. But my father say he never knew him. He never met him. So I asked my father one time. He said he never met him. He said he never met his grandfather. You know, and shit. And that's with a lot of us, man. That's with a lot of us. So it'd be hard, you know. I believe that's why they haven't really went forward of giving reparation. But Vince, what I think they should do, which they're not gonna do, is provide uh, facilities or places or whatever where they can teach like different trades, you know, shit like that. Because they took a lot of that shit out of the black community. They took a lot of that out of the black community, especially out of the schools. So I remember when I was in high school, we used to have woodshop class, we used to have drafting classes, you know, the women had sewing classes, you know, you had all different type of trades and shit you could take in high school. Cooking classes, culinary, as they call it. They had all that in high school, and they took all that shit out. They even took out music. What the fuck? So they took a lot of stuff out of our schools, man, that benefit young black people when they become adults. Them different classes I named, you won't find them too many of those in in schools, high schools. You just won't. It's crazy, but it's real. I'm Hey Vince, I'm not saying it's too late. I'm just saying if they're gonna give us reparations, they're gonna throw a monkey wrench in the game. That's all I'm saying. They're gonna throw a monkey wrench in the game. They're gonna throw some kind of red tape in there where it's gonna be difficult for a lot of people to get reparations. See, some of them don't think they did anything wrong. Why? Because they don't want to give it to us in the first place. That's just my opinion. But I'm just saying, because they don't want to give it to us in the first place. Because if they wanted to give it to us, they would have been gave it to us. They would have been gave it to us. Just like you borrow some money and you tend to pay it back, you're gonna go pay it back. But if you don't want to pay it back, you're gonna come up with excuses. Oh man, hey, can I wait till next check to pay you out? But you ain't intend to pay them back when you got your check. You just said that to get the money. So it's crazy. It's crazy. But Vince, they want us to, man, I say this all the time, Vince, they want us to be so blind and stay naive. No, no, Vince, it ain't no sense. No. See, we can't expect them to do for us what we expect them or we think that they should do for us. They ain't gonna do it. They ain't gonna do it. What should prove it to everybody is when the migrants came. They took better care of the migrants than they did most of the black people that's still here in the United States, that's citizens here. And you got to also think too, all black people that's here are not original U.S. citizens. Some probably came from Africa. Some probably came, from the islands, Belize, Jamaica. So all black people here are not natural citizen either. So that's why I say it'd be kind of hard to prove. It's a long process. It's a long process. It's a good idea to want reparations, but we'll never get it. Never gonna get it, 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 never get it. Yep. That's why I say, man, we gotta we like, I hate to keep preaching the same damn song. But we gotta stop depending on other people to take care of our own problems. See, that's our problem. And that's what they want us to do. They want us to come to them so we can depend on them. How many times I gotta say this shit? That's what they want. Like when I read you guys the Willie Lynch letter, that was his main thing for the slave owners to put on their slave, to make them depend on them. Make us depend on them. We, today is, we don't have no excuse for us to prosper. We have no excuse. And Vince, that should tell you that they don't give a damn about us, man. Nah, the Willie Lynch, that ain't no false document. I don't know who told you that. I don't know who told you that. Don't believe that. Don't believe that hype. That's a good thing, Shai. And see, that's what all this welfare and all this other shit is. Shit depending on the government. You're depending on the government to live. No. That's what they want you to do. They want you to depend on them. Look how they got the women depending on them. For the women to get what they get, they can have their man in their household. They can have a black man or the black father their kids in their household, or they lose their benefits. So it took away from the woman to depend on that black man, for that black man to be the provider that he's supposed to be. That takes that away. Now the government becomes the woman baby daddy. The government is the one who takes the money out of the original father's pocket. But he don't want that black man in that family household. But he's willing to take that money from him. But that woman has to keep that black man out of his household, out of her household, to keep getting that money. Separation of the family. Right. Right. So what is that? That's separation of the family, splitting the family. Because the man's supposed to be to provide for the family. The woman is supposed to nurture the kids and take care of the house. Not necessarily work from home, but you know, be there for the kids. The father is to go out there to provide. That's how the two teams work together. Yeah, I heard of it. We're supposed to work together. But you take one away, it's broken. You can't take a part off a machine and expect the machine to work the same. It won't happen. Just take that one part away, can make that machine run differently. Or make it, or even not run at all. Yeah. Yeah, back in the day, because they used to have social workers that came to your house, that visit your house to check and see if you got a man or whatever living in the house. And if you got anything that's bought that's new or a man bought you, let's say you seeing somebody and the man buy you something, you go in the house, shit. You better not let that social worker see it. That division, man. That division. Separate that black man from the family. The government making him the government making themselves the baby daddy. Come to me, I'll take care of you. Just keep him out your house. But I take care of you, don't worry about it. Yeah, you see some of us just fall in that trap. Hey, I don't have to get off my ass, I ain't gotta go work. Shit, I can collect this every month. That's when you find generation of people on public assistance. What was all right, Vince? Yeah, it's crazy, man. It's crazy. That's why I say, man, it's shit. Anybody neglect history, man, is a damn fool. They want to stay blind all their life. But like I say, history don't do nothing but repeats itself. History, that's all it is. History repeats itself. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's why, Vince, I did a lot of, reading and, let me give a shout out to my cousin, man, Dr. Darnell Bowden. He got me into, you know, doing deep research, you know. So we started a page on Facebook where we started talking about history, and the more we talked about it, the more I got intrigued, you know. So even though he got a PhD, I was self-taught. I was self-taught. Well, I got a little help from him. But, if I had questions, I called him. But I was intrigued, man. The more I learned, the more I was intrigued. The more I wanted to learn more. Yeah, I agree with that, Shotty, but not to the point as we were in the United States. The United States had a different type of slavery. You know, other countries didn't really brutalize and terrorize the slaves like they did us in the United States. Some of them probably was terrorized or whatever, but not as much. So that's true, because you go all the way back to the biblical days. You know, that's good. My family wasn't either mega band. My family never was on public aid either. We used to talk about we used to talk about people on public aid. When you went, ain't no way in hell if you was on public aid back in the day, you would announce it or you'd be so proud to be on it. Hell no. That was a taboo. Somebody see you them little food stamp booklets, man, you'd be talked about like a mug, man. Your mama on welfare. Your mama on welfare. Your mama on welfare. Sorry. Come on, man. We the original people, bro. We the original people, bro. Don't worry about it, Shotty. Stay tuned, man. I'm gonna get to all that. I'm getting to all that. I'm just, I'm taking it slow. I'm taking it slow, but I'm gonna get to all that. Just stay tuned, my brother. But yeah, we the original people. What's up, Anthony? Yeah, man. So it's crazy, man. It's crazy. Don't get to that. There's a lot of more teaching and learning ahead. There's a lot more ahead, man. You know? Yeah. Oh, for sure, Shotty. You know me, bro. That's what I came over here for, man. That's what I came over here for, man. That's definitely what I came over for and to do. And to do, man. Yeah. So yeah, man. I dig this, man. How long you been here, Anthony? You said you was in the bushes or you just came? But I think you told me you like to talk about history. Uh, uh, well, I don't get to that, Shotty. See, Shotty, you bring it up too much, man. I ain't get to yet, man. Slow down, bro. Slow down. Hmm. Hmm. What you say is just not black? I agree with you. I agree with you. But see, now it's not about race. And I said this before. It's about good versus evil. Because you have some blacks that's evil as hell. And you have some blacks that's good. You have some whites that's evil as hell. And you have some whites that's good. So it's not all about race. It's about evil, good versus evil. That's what it's about. Good versus evil. That's it. That's why you can't put all black people in one category. You can't put all white people in one category. Yeah, that's what I like. That's what I like to talk, Anthony. I leave that other shit to y'all. I leave the other shit to y'all. I just enjoy and watch it or whatever, but I leave that shit to y'all, man. I do what I do. I believe that, Shotty. You know, it's always an agenda. Anything that is done or whatever is always an agenda. And that's for real. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, they got some old houses. But they doing a lot of building up. See, like I say, the property tax is so high. A lot of people, black families, even some black families who inherit their home from their parents, you know, the property tax is so high, they either had to sell it or they lost their house. So what they do, they'll refurnish, they'll rebuild that house, not rebuild, but modernize, the inside and all that shit of the house. Then somebody else will move in, white, immigrant, or whatever. They'll move in, but that black person is gone. So slowly but surely, like when I had played the Chicago riots and how the white people was like living close to downtown and all that stuff, close to the loop and all that shit, white people are starting to come back because when the blacks was coming to Chicago, like in the 60s or whatever, a lot of whites moved out the city, moved out the neighborhood. See, so now they need to, a lot of these white folks who especially work downtown in the loop or, whatever, work in Chicago, a lot of them want to move back to Chicago. So what they doing, Like they already knocked down the projects. Robert Taylor Holmes, Cabrini Green, they already tore down them projects. And what they doing is building condos. Just like where I live, they building a lot of condos for the students at the University of Chicago Hospital. So I live around a lot of either doctors or University of Chicago students because that's what they building up around in the neighborhood I live at now. So they moving as they moving in, they moving the blacks out like to the southern suburbs, like places like Harvey, Dalton, Calumet City, shit like that. They moving them back there, and the white folks moving back in the city. It's a method to the madness, man. And you still got black people not acting right, still doing what they doing. Because like I said before, some of these white folks will get tired of losing money because of these team takeovers and shit. That's one thing you can't do is mess with the white man's money. They don't like that. Because not only are these young teens and some black folks mess with their money, but they mess with other black people resources. You know, senior citizens have to go mile or 2 miles or 3 miles to get their prescription now when all they had to do was go around the block to get their prescription. You know, senior citizens have to go miles if they need to go to a Walgreens or something, get something at Walgreens. They got because the Walgreens that's in their neighborhood was closed down because of theft and all this shit. So we kind of doing it to ourselves. We kind of doing it to ourselves. By us doing what we doing and all this shit going on, team takeovers, you know, people breaking in stores, stealing ATM machines, and we hurting ourselves. And what was the question? Do I ever think we're gonna get reparations? Man, it's crazy, yo. It's crazy. We want shit, but we don't want to act right. We want people to do shit for us, but we won't act right. We won't even do shit for ourselves. Well, we want to blame the president. We want to blame all this shit when we don't do shit for ourselves. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. It's crazy. You know, we do crazy shit, then we want people to do shit for us. It don't work like that. It don't work like that. It do not work like that. It's crazy. It's crazy how our mindset is, man. How we think. It's crazy how we think, man. It's mind boggling. It's mind boggling. Hmm. And hope everybody doing all right. We've been getting rainstorms here. We're supposed to get another one today. Man, prayers out to the people, man, who suffered through them tornadoes and what you get, Mega Man? What you get, man? But yeah, like I was saying, we had a big storm last week, this past weekend, man. A lot of people lost their power. A lot of people lost their homes. We had a lot of damage in Chicago, man. Trees falling on cars, trees falling on houses. So we had a little damage here too. Cause I know some people in Chicago didn't have any power. But my girl and my daughter had to come stay at my house because they didn't have no power at theirs. So we had people lost power, man. Shit was crazy, man. But prayers out to people who lost their houses. I haven't heard any tragedy, but people who lost their house, damage to their house or whatever, man. Prayers out to them. You say Chicago people stuck in the Jim Crow era? Nah, nah, that ain't true. A lot of Chicago people are stuck in the don't know how to act era. That's especially these youngins. Shit, they know damn Jim Crow. That's what that is. That's exactly what that is. Mhm. Well, yeah, yeah, big dead head. I ain't doing shit. Yeah, shit. Yesterday I got my daughter in the camp. Shit. She wanted to get in the sports camp. Yeah, hey, it was windy, all right. It was windy. Shit. But shit, the way it was, shit, there wasn't nobody out there committing no crime. Shit. Well, it was too messed up, man. That was too messed up. But we had some crimes over the weekend, though. We had some crimes over the weekend. We don't go a weekend without having some type of crime, man. Which is a shame. Which is a shame. Dwight. Dwight. Don't do that. that man got a single digit approval rating. People still want that man head paused. People still want him. Want him out of office. See, Johnson messed up when he took care of all them immigrants before he took care of the people in Chicago. I think a lot of mayors in different cities probably made that mistake. I don't know. I just speak of Chicago. Because I think, what was it, like 300 million? Might have been billion, I don't know. But he spent a lot of money on them immigrants. Then want to ask the government for more money. Like I say, I don't have no problem with people coming here trying to, improve their way of living, whatever. But the way they did it was crazy. Because they had just let anybody over. Criminals, regular people, they let everybody over. And they gave everybody they let over, they gave them extra benefits, even though we wasn't getting the extra benefits they was getting. And we've been here. So if you was a migrant, no matter what you got great benefits just for coming over. So how would you think the regular people that's from here, how they gonna feel? You're right. He worked for the school board, teacher. Shit. Shit. Cause cause before him, when Lightfoot was running for mayor, the teachers wanted her because she was, talking about looking out for them on their new contract. Then when Lightfoot got in there, she didn't do what she promised. So that's what turned the teachers board against her. That's what that was. All about politics. But see, we in Chicago, we don't know how to vote no way. We don't know how to vote. We vote for who we like. And don't let them put somebody up there that looks like us. Oh, we vote for him automatically because he black. Or we vote for her automatically because she black. They won't let him mayor. We got another brother uh, that young brother who ran for mayor. They won't give him a time of day. They ain't gonna let him become mayor. They won't let him become mayor. Shit. Willie Johnson, people think he's stupid. That man ain't stupid. That man ain't stupid at all. He didn't get all that money for being stupid. You can't be stupid and be rich like that. What the fuck? You can't be stupid and get rich like that. Mm-mm. No way, Jose. Yeah, you probably would. You probably would. But they ain't gonna let him in there though. They ain't gonna let him in there. Now, I just told y'all about the history of Chicago. I showed you who ran Chicago. Man, just like any place else, man, they don't want, they ain't thinking about us. They ain't thinking about us. And you know why they ain't thinking about us? Because we fucking everything up ourselves. Violence toward one another, stealing, robbing, unaliving each other. Man, they ain't gonna do nothing for us. Cause we don't even care about ourselves. But Trump, you gotta understand what was the purpose of the immigrants. Cause see, the Democrats know that they losing some of the black vote. So they know to fill in that gap, they need some new voters. Just like they did us when they passed the civil rights bill. Oh, we let them over here and we do all this for them, they'll vote Democrat. They got the same mindset. That's a different race of people. Same mindset. It's chess, not checkers, man. Just like Lyndon B. Johnson said, if we pass this civil rights bill, we have them voting for us for the next 50 or 70 or however how many years he said. The same thing here. If we do this for these immigrants, they'll vote Democrat. Politics. Politics. That's why you have to pay attention to different shit, man. How you know? I don't think everybody in Chicago is poor or not doing well. You know, it ain't about how much you make; it's about what you do with what you make. You know, and you got some black people here making money. Don't get it twisted. Don't let a few cloud your judgment. No, you got some black that vote for him, but you got. I hate to say it, but you know, some that don't. You have some black that vote for him, some that don't. No, they'll put or another thing they'll do. They'll put another black opponent up there, so you have to choose between the two, and whichever one you like best, that's what they vote for. Oh, them motherfuckers, they play political games. They play political games. They definitely do that. They definitely do that. Hmm. Well, so you know, it's crazy. It's crazy. Definitely crazy. Uh, something else. I want to throw by y'all before I get off. Hmm, let me let me see if I can find it. Somebody had said something about how the Willie Lynch letter was false document. But I'm gonna play something right quick for y'all. This is on. You are about to hear The Willie Lynch Letter and the Making of a Slave, read by Ronald Eastwood.
Contents. Chapter 1, Greetings. Chapter 2, Let's Make a Slave. Chapter 3, Cardinal Principles for Making a Negro. Chapter 4, The Breaking Process of the African Woman. Chapter 5, The Negro Marriage Unit. Chapter 6, Controlled Language. This speech was delivered by Willie Lynch on the bank of the James River in the colony of Virginia in 1712.
Now I'm gonna let this play. And whatever I was saying about that what's happening now, I'm gonna point it out to you. Since somebody said the Willie Lynch letter is the document that don't exist. But everything that's on here is basically what people use through history. But I'm going to point out everything that they had said and how they're applying it today. Okay?
Lynch was a British slave owner in the West Indies. He was invited to the colony of Virginia in 1712 to teach his methods to slave owners there. The term lynching is derived from his name. Greetings. Gentlemen, I greet you here on the bank of the James River in the year of our Lord 1712. First, I should thank you, the gentlemen of the colony of Virginia, for bringing me here. I am here to help you solve some of your problems with slaves. Your invitation reached me on my modest plantation in the West Indies, where I have experimented with some of the newest and still have the oldest methods for control of slaves. Ancient Rome would envy us if my program is implemented. And
now, back in the day, the Roman Church kind of ruled everything. You know what I'm saying? So the Roman Church was like top dog, and whatever the Roman Church said was law. See, not knowing the history of the Roman Church, but back then the Roman Church was law, and it was with all this slavery stuff. But like I said, slavery in the United States was different from slavery everywhere else. Slavery in the United States was more brutal than slavery in other places. So that's why he said the people of Rome, the Church of Rome, will love for what he's doing and what he's telling them how to control their slaves. Let's continue.
as our boat sailed south on the James River, named for our illustrious king, whose version of the Bible we cherish, I saw enough to know that your problem is not unique. While Rome used cords of wood as crosses for standing human beings along its highways in great numbers, you are here using the tree and the rope on occasions. I caught the width of a dead slave hanging from a tree a couple of miles back. You are not only losing valuable stock by hangings, you are having uprisings. Slaves are running away. Your crops are sometimes left in the fields too long for maximum profit. You suffer occasional fires. Your animals are killed. Gentlemen, you know what your problems are. I do not need to elaborate. I am not here to enumerate your problem. I am here to introduce you to a method of solving them. In my bag here, I have a foolproof method for controlling your black slaves. I guarantee every one of you that if you installed it correctly, it will control the slaves for at least 300 years. My method is simple. Any member of your family or your overseer can use it. I have outlined a number of differences among the slaves, and I take them differences and make them bigger. I use fear, distrust, and envy for control purposes.
Fear, distrust, and envy. What's in our neighborhood today? We fearing these youngins. We don't trust each other. And we can't stand another black person making it. You know? So that's how that shit was. I ain't gonna go too much in there with the Lynch. I'm just gonna leave it out right there. But it's telling you, that's how you control them. That's how you control them. Fear is trust and envy. I hear you, Mega Band. But that's what they say, man. We don't like to read. That's what they bank on, that we don't read. That's how they figure we stay blind, because we too lazy to read. We rather go on what somebody tell us. See, we satisfied when somebody tell us something. We satisfied with what they saying. We don't try to research it ourselves and get our own understanding. You know, we want to go by somebody else's understanding. That's just like some people reading the Bible. People go by the preacher's understanding. They don't get their own understanding. Then you have somebody come tell them, you know, the Bible's fake and all that. They'll believe it because they haven't read for themselves. But see, if they read for themselves and they do their research, people will understand, yes, it was stuff taken out the Bible. Yes, it was. But it was part of the books in the Bible that was taken out for a reason. But see, you won't know that unless you research and read yourself. See, it was a reason why these books was taken out the Bible. Because what they took, the books they took out the Bible would explain a lot of things that maybe if you read, maybe just read the King James Version, you won't be as confused if you knew them other books in the Bible. If you understand what I'm saying. So you can't always go on people's word. You have to research and read yourself. Because a person can tell you anything. And if you believe it, you're a fool. You're a fool. Like I wanted to do this I wanted to do a live on this guy Jim Jones. I know a lot of you guys probably wasn't born. Some of you guys was born and heard about it. Just like this guy Jim Jones back in the late 70s. He's supposed to have been like a prophet, a preacher. He's telling all his people, all his congregation, pull out your money out the bank. I have a place we can go and live. Bring me all your money out the bank, all your assets, all that. But we all go on this island. And he so-called preaching the word. Got people thinking that he's the Messiah. Got him over there. All types of things was happening. Then as time went on, he had them drink poison. Unalive everybody that's on that island because they thought that man was a prophet. But if they would have read the Bible or whatever for themselves, they would have known that man was full of shit. But by them not reading and just going by on somebody's word, they fell into the trap. That's why you got to read and research on your own, man. Get your own understanding. Because it's a terrible thing when you go by other people's words. That makes you nothing but a follower. That's it. Make sure a follower. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. But yeah, man, it's a cold, cold world, y'all. It's a cold, cold world. It's a cold, cold world, man. We live in a cold, cold world. That's for damn sure. But people, I'm gonna get off this live. I appreciate everybody who came through. Mega Bam, Shotty, Trump, Dwayne, the King Mafia. My bad. What's up, Ed? I had dropped my damn self. What's up, Ed? But yeah, man. It's a trip. It's a trip. Uh, so, like I said, thank everybody who came through. You know, next live got something else to talk about. Um, but like I said, thanks again everybody that came through, man. You know, appreciate you. Hope everybody have a nice hump day pause. Does everybody have a God bless day? All right, until next time, people. Uh-huh.